Poetry is rather an approach to things, to life, than it is typographical production. Buenas noches. Don't mind the roaches. If there is anything good about exile, it is that it teaches one humility. It accelerates one's drift into isolation, an absolute perspective, into the condition at which all one is left with is oneself and one's language, with nobody or nothing in between. Exile brings you overnight where it would normally take a lifetime to go. If one's fated to be born in Caesar's empire, let him live aloof, provincial, by the seashore. Out of Dostoevsky, Kafka. Out of Tolstoy, Margaret Mitchell. In conversation, explaining his dislike for Tolstoy. If there is anything good about exile, it is that it teaches one humility. It accelerates one's drift into isolation, an absolute perspective, into the condition at which all one is left with is oneself and one's language, with nobody or nothing in between. Exile brings you overnight where it would normally take a lifetime to go. Love is an attitude toward reality, usually of someone finite toward something infinite. And love, as an act, lacks a verb. The real history of consciousness starts with one's first lie. Snobbery? But it's only a form of despair. An object, after all, is what makes infinity private. Life is a game with many rules but no referee. One learns how to play it more by watching it than by consulting any book, including the Holy Book. Small wonder, then, that so many play dirty, that so few win, that so many lose. Judge, and what is your occupation in general? Brodsky, poet translator. Judge, and who recognized you to be a poet? Who put you in the ranks of poet? Brodsky, no one. And who put me in the ranks of humanity? Judge, did you study it? How to be a poet? Did you attempt to finish an institute of higher learning, where they prepare, teach? Brodsky, I did not think that it is given to one by education. Judge, by what then? Brodsky, I think that it is from God. The longer you stay skeptical, doubtful, intellectually uncomfortable, the better it is for you. For a writer, only one form of patriotism exists, his attitude toward language. After all, it is hard to master both life and work equally well. So if you are bound to fake one of them, it had better be life. It's an abominable fallacy that suffering makes for greater art. Suffering blinds, deafens, ruins, and often kills. Osip Mandelstam was a great poet before the revolution. So was Anna Akhmatova, so was Marina Tsvetaeva. They would have become what they became even if none of the historical events that befell Russia in this century had taken place, because they were gifted. Basically, talent doesn't need history. Boredom speaks the language of time, and it is to teach you the most valuable lesson in your life, the lesson of your utter insignificance. It is valuable to you, as well as to those you are to rub shoulders with. You are finite, time tells you in a voice of boredom, and whatever you do is, from my point of view, futile. As music to your ears, this, of course, may not count, yet the sense of futility, of limited significance even of your best, most ardent actions is better than the illusion of their consequence and the attendant self-satisfaction. What concerns me is that man, unable to articulate, to express himself adequately, reverts to action. Since the vocabulary of action is limited, as it were, to his body, he is bound to act violently, extending his vocabulary with a weapon where there should have been an adjective. If there is any substitute for love, it is memory. Try not to pay attention to those who will try to make life miserable for you. There will be a lot of those in the official capacity as well as the self-appointed. Suffer them if you can't escape them, but once you have steered clear of them, give them the shortest shrift possible. Above all, try to avoid telling stories about the unjust treatment you received at their hands. Avoid it no matter how receptive your audience may be. Tales of this sort extend the existence of your antagonists. The eye identifies itself not with the body it belongs to but with the object of its attention. Man is what he reads. The fact that we are living does not mean we are not sick. Life, the way it really is a battle not between good and bad, but between bad and worse. There are worse crimes than burning books. One of them is not reading them. For darkness restores what light cannot repair. When hit by boredom, let yourself be crushed by it, submerge, hit bottom. In general, with things unpleasant, the rule is, the sooner you hit bottom, the faster you surface. The idea here is to exact a full look at the worst. The reason boredom deserves such scrutiny is that it represents pure, undiluted time in all its repetitive, redundant, monotonous splendor. Boredom is your window on the properties of time that one tends to ignore to the likely peril of one's mental equilibrium. It is your window on time's infinity. Once this window opens, don't try to shut it, on the contrary, throw it wide open. The surest defense against evil is extreme individualism, originality of thinking, whimsicality, even, if you will, eccentricity. There are worse crimes than burning books. One of them is not reading them.